My name is John Michael Fox, but I've been a middle name person all my life, so call me Mike. My research interests, I have four things that are going on right now. Three are research-oriented, and one is a tactical product. So the first one is the Ontology of Creativity. It's a classification of creativity that goes beyond the current 4 Ps. When we look at alchemy, we see that with the advent of the periodic table of elements, alchemy became chemistry. Traditionally, whether it's the last 50 or 60 years or, well, it doesn't matter how long, we have been traditionally up against the notion of creativity is magic and you can't teach it and you can't learn it and it's a gift from outside and all those kinds of barrier-oriented comments. So to bring our discipline into something that is better defined and certainly more readily acceptable or accepted by the public at large, an ontology, a classification of creativity would be useful. Here's what we've already tried. I've tried using schemas from other social systems, and it has not produced the desired effect. We tried looking at the Library of Congress and their classification system, something that's off the shelf, and we could use that. And what we found was that as we looked at all the permutations of the interactions of these individual cells in a classification system, is that when I reached 176 million discrete cells, I thought, well, that's probably too many. And we've tried data mining. Data mining seems to be producing some fruit, but it is not the answer yet anyway. Here are some of the players involved in this right now. István Magyari-Beck from Budapest, Hungary. I met him in 1987 when I was working on the creation of CBIR, the Computer-Based Information Resources System, the searchable database that would potentially accommodate the world's periodical literature and easily searched and so on in terms of creativity. And Magyari-Beck had a theoretical approach, which I will show you in the next slide, that seemed to work, but it was, looking back now, it was the beginning step, relatively primitive. I'm saying that without checking with István. That came along, and I'm still doing work in terms of the empirical work of what fits. Scott Dickerson, for his master's project, has been doing some data mining, and it's still in its infancy and does not seem to be producing the desired effect yet. Max Luther from Germany is also taking an empirical approach, and he is about ready to publish, and so I would hope that he will have something that will help. Mike Bridge was the one who did the Library of Congress classification system and trying to put that onto what we have in terms of existing schemes for creativity, and we all walked away with this is more complicated than we thought. Now, this particular slide shows the initial ontology from Magyari-Beck, where we are comparing people to the 4 Ps. For example, on the left-hand side, you will see a listing from individual up to group, up to organization, and then finally society. Then across the top, it's the standard 4Ps, person, process, product, and press. And when Istvan Magyari-Beck was working with this, he had some subcells, subcategories rather, than it turned this into 48 cells. But it was based on a theoretical approach. It has not found, it has not been functional enough yet. And so where I leave it is, what we need is new ways to think about this. I'm a pretty smart guy, but this maybe is going to take all of us. So my next step, out of frustration and so on, is maybe we're going to have to do this one as outsourcing, getting everybody involved. Isn't there a term for that? Is it called?
Outsourcing.
Outsourcing? Okay, yeah. And then maybe we'll have something. Then the next one, thank you, John. The next one is this genome of creativity research. It is connected to the classification systems that we use in creativity. And this one is about how do we display, think about, investigate, and make use of the burgeoning research in creativity. And so what I propose is some sort of graphical display, a map, if you will, of the research that has gone from 1950 to present. And this database would show where the research is robust. It would show where it is thin or non-existent. Let me show the next one here. And so this is going to take a record of each investigation. And the record, the fields that might be in this database for a particular investigation might be who did it, the author, the year that it was done, the problem or the hypothesis, were there measures used, what were the results, and it goes on and on. And right now I have about 17 distinct fields that one could ask about, such as the results of brainstorming, for example, and how has that been looked at? What are the results of any research around that? So the next one, this is the a simple graphical display. The first one, column A, beside it is 1950, and then there are some rectangles, and then 1960 there are some more, and nothing happened in 1970 and 1980. Maybe something else happened in 1990, and so on. Whatever that hypothetical investigation set might have been. Playfully, in the 50s, I did the brainstorming one, Taylor, Berry, and Block in the 50s, and then it kept going, and we've been researching to this thing to the point where you have to ask, is anybody reading the literature? That's my frustration element coming out. How many times do you need to investigate the same thing? Have we done it enough? And so on. So this, if we were to ask a single element from, or multiple elements from these possible fields, then we could get a display of when things were done and what it looked like, and then you would be able to open up any one of those rectangles, which represents a record, and read about it and compare it and so on to see if it is the area that you're interested in and the like. The notion of a genome of creativity research started out as a tongue-in-cheek name because I had no name for it, and it kind of stuck. And maybe it's not so bad. It is mapping what we've done and making a graphical display out of this to see where work has been done, where it hasn't, and so on. Okay, the next one is the impact study that I'm just about to launch. The hypothesis on this impact study is 10 taking creative studies courses at the undergraduate level increases the likelihood of graduation. What happened was that just because I had nothing else to do that day, I asked for an archival a comparison of a course or of some courses that I taught in a particular year compared to something more recent. And I asked the question, how many people in that first cohort actually graduated from college? And it was about 40%. And then sometime later, I asked about a cohort that had not taken any creative studies courses. And I said, what is the graduation rate for this group of people? And it was about 21%, roughly half. So was that just spurious data? Did it come as a result of happenstance? Or was there a positive influence by taking a creative studies course that kept a person in school and ultimately got them to graduate? Next one. So now my question is, and we will do an archival study on this, does it take one course to get that desired effect? Does it take two courses, or perhaps all 5 courses in the minor to make the difference that says these folks have potentially twice the retention and graduation rate as opposed to people that have had no creative studies courses at all? Or does it not make any difference at all? So that's what we're going to embark on. I'm working with Nate Schwegler, who's probably still on the line, and
Who's not working?
writing up the proposal. It's for those of you who have done a thesis proposal or a concept paper for a master's project. That's what I'm doing essentially, is writing this up so that we can do this efficiently and so on, and then we'll have to get somebody else to spend the money. Okay. Then the next one. Last year, I was escaping from Nigeria. I was leaving Nigeria to come back to the States, and I had the pleasure of sitting with a government minister of important things. And when you have 7 hours to go from Nigeria to London, why, you can talk a lot. And so wanting to get my point across, the first thing I did was listen a lot and engaged him in his challenges. And then he asked me, what did I do? And I said, well, I do this training and facilitation and so on, and talked about creativity. And he said, can you do that for us at the government level, at the federal government level in the country of Nigeria? And so I said, well, it's a multi-year effort, most probably, to address the issues that you want. And it would probably cost a lot of money and so on. But I was not able to bring that to fruition because I had no template for creating an easy-to-use proposal system. So the advantage of this would be we could give to our graduate students, our faculty, those people who are curious, outreach opportunities and laboratory experiences. We could involve faculty, graduate students, and alumni, and it would possibly involve multi-year efforts. A proposal like this is the practical, tactical thing that I intend to create, is something that I could use some help with so that I could make this work quicker, sooner than later. And that is my area of interests.